So when I decided that I was going to start making G1 related stuff, funsies, the very first thing I modeled, actually I guess was Shockwave's head, but the first like any sort of substantial thing was Soundwave, and then the third one Wheeljack because in neither of those cases or none of those cases am I like super into the character necessarily, but they all look really cool. Which is the most impressive thing about the Transformers in the '80s is that it's such a bizarre aesthetic, but it works so well. It shouldn't be cohesive, but it is. Strange. Anyway, part of the reason I picked Shockwave and Soundwave and then Wheeljack is that I felt like I could handle them at that point as I was learning how to model, and and they look cool. Shockwave especially is so cool, which I should dig into the model I made of that a while ago. That's in a future video. But Wheeljack especially. So he's Autobot, original show. Um, it's just so weird because if you look at him, he's got he's got a mohawk basically. He's got three metal mohawk fin things, and his he doesn't have a mouth plate, which makes it easier to model, or he doesn't have a mouth rather. But having that kind of you know mummy wrap thing around his face. It's absurd. It's lovely. It's amazing. And he doesn't have like when he talks, there's no mouth movement. It's just his ears or mutton chops, whatever they are, they glow when he talks. I love it. So I am beginning a process of since I got my resin printer situation sort of upgraded recently. I'm going back and printing some stuff that I modeled a long time ago. One of them is Wheeljack's head. And so I'm fixing up the model um, to make it print worthy because I had to do that. So I'm just going through some of the design stuff, some of the process, um, and yeah. And so I start, generally speaking, I start with a when I'm figuring them out because I want to make it like as cartoon accurate. Going finding sort of the oldest character references, which are in the cartoon, like the one sheet. And this is the one sheet you can find for Wheeljack. It's a little rough in the face, but I use that to make this, and I think that's a pretty good. I didn't change the colors. Um, it's a pretty good version of that. I didn't make the head. The shape of the head was a little different, or like the sort of this part here, like it's a different angle. And these pieces, his mohawks are uh, a little they're a little shorter there, but so I did this, and then for a while I was sort of looking and thinking this looks good, but there's something that's not quite right about it. And what it is that his head is a little different in the actual cartoon itself. Optimus Prime has the same thing where his faceplate or his mouth plate is more round in the character model, but in the actual show, it becomes after the first few episodes anyway, it becomes pretty angular. So it's not what the mental image is. So this was good, um, and this is what it looks like when I 3D printed it, which looks still cool, but it didn't sit right. So then I went in and I found the reason why I didn't like it is that in the actual show, it's more like this. He's got more uh, more of a curve. It's a little more slick. Is I adjusted the mohawks, but yeah. So the way this works here is I'm gonna I think just his head. I'm gonna target there. So what you can see is there's a little isolation mode in Shaper 3D, which I love. Um, so you can see here, I'm going to do a little cutaway. There are some gaps. The eye, that little weird gap there is from the eyes. There's a small gap you can see here, but it's not really enough. So what I have to, or no, actually, there's not a gap at all. That's insert. So what happened was I had a version of this um, that did have the proper gaps. It is this one here, which if I'm doing my editing correctly, you can see me taking apart because
ears come off, and you have to put a bit of gap between the pieces so that they can, slide together. It's just a thing. You model it, and then you figure out how you're going to cut it up to build it, and then you put in little gaps depending on the size. And if you put the gaps and then you shrink it, you have to like readjust the gaps because the gaps will also shrink if you shrink the model down. And likewise, if you know, if I were to scale this wheeljack up with the proper the gaps before scaling up, then the gaps would become huge if I made the head like a foot wide. So it's something you do at each size. Um, and it doesn't take very long. But I have a version again, the version now on camera. You can see I have a little gap. I have a little anchor point for the nose as well. And that specific version of that model, I deleted apparently because unless I find it in the course of recording this now. Nope. I keep backups in a bunch of them, but I didn't keep the backup of it. All right. So the reason I need to do this is if you need to have space between pieces. So if you have like two cubes and you want to intersect, you want one to slot into another cube. If say the smaller cube is like say 1 centimeter long, 1 centimeter wide, you couldn't make the hole that big. You'd have to make it slightly bigger, like a fraction of a millimeter bigger. Otherwise, it just you know. Otherwise, every time you do it, when you print it off, you have to spend a lot of time sanding things down and taking away material to make it fit. In this particular case, what I need to do is I need to adjust mostly the mouth and then a bit of the head, and then also the eyes. But so I don't need to adjust either ear because of how they intersect. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to turn off isolation mode for a second, and then I'm going to do the chin part first. Then I'm going to turn on isolation mode. And then this is a little box that I made to hold the battery for the LED that I imagined putting in, and I just haven't done that. So I'm going to select these pieces, and I'm going to go down, let's say 0.1. So then, because I'm never sure if I'm hitting the right aspect, I just go back and then see. You can see it's a tiny difference, but so it's 0.1 millimeter, and that should be mostly fine. I might have to do more than that. And like I said, if I were to scale this down, I would need to, after scaling it, I'd need to sort of readjust that. But this is the size, so I'm selecting all of these faces. And then I'm saying, I guess in this case, sometimes Shaper, when you select it, it gives you a 0 value when you're adjusting the value, but sometimes it gives you the actual radius, and then you have to adjust it that way. So 39.2, I think. Or is that too much? It might be too much. Yeah, okay, that was too much. It should be 39.1. Because the radius is 39 millimeters, and then another 39 millimeters is the diameter. So, yes, I am a professional. I'm a programmer in my day job, but what's the difference between a radius and a diameter? I have to think about that. So 39.1. I don't have the indicators for where the cursor is, but kind of have to figure that out. Okay, so that's fine for the nose part, and then I need to also do it for this part here. I think actually, is that true? Let me double check here. Whoa. So what I want to do here, this place here, I'm going to add a plane. I do wish that, as much as I love Shaper, there are some little gaps in it, such as I have to create a plane before I can do this. It's kind of annoying. Okay, yeah, so you can see that. This is the section view where I can see inside things, which took me a little while before I understood why it was so great. So I'm going to select the head, isolate to just the head, and so then you can see this is just all that remains. And I put a little structure here, like this piece here, because I thought, oh, I'm going to put an LED sort of like in that area. But then that would make the require like the actual earpiece to be printed in a see-through filament, but then it has to also be transparent and gray, but then turn blue. And I don't think that's beyond my current abilities. Um, so there's no gap. You can see that there's no gap here. That's what I'm going to do in the head. I'm going to turn off the. Can I turn it off? I would like to turn it off, please. Why can't I turn it off? Huh. Okay. Yeah, I get that, but why won't you? No. Weird. Okay. Then I'm going to turn off isolation mode. I'm going to delete that plane. I don't need it current. Whoa, definitely not delete all that. Normally, I'm recording these with the intent of speeding up. So this is me, and speeding it up and then talking more about it. But this is me being extra rambly. Okay. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to turn the right ear off, so you can see. Then I actually have to turn off. Oh shoot! Yeah, I can't. Let's fix that again. Oh no! What am I doing? What am I doing? Okay. This section view. This right here. So I do section view. It doesn't have to be on top of it. It can be over there, but it's on the same plane. So if I turn this off now, I can back up. There we go. And so this only goes halfway. So I'm going to say. I'm going to select all of these faces. Can't remember about the battery though, but 0.6? That's not right. Oh, no, hold on. What I need to do, for some reason, if I select that last, if I select the number, it's a little, you have to be sort of picky about which, yeah, so there you go. So a little difference there. So if I turn the ear back on, there's a little bit of a gap. And I believe that'll be enough. It'll be a snug fit, but that's fine. So I'm going to do the same thing over here. Left, okay. And then in this case, I'm not going to super worry about the magnets. Part of the reason I had the magnets is so I could easily take them apart. And then I'm going to just going to select them last, so I have the arrow 0.1 negative, boom. And then let me see here. So I've got 6.4. Oof. Okay. Yeah, I am gonna make that a little bigger, just in case. So this doesn't actually take. Let me see. Oh, those are different heights. I hadn't even realized that. It's interesting. It's been a while since I've actually looked at the model that closely. This specific model, I mean. So then you should be able to see on both cases. So his ear is good. So if I turn that off, oh, I have it backwards. I thought I was looking forward and wondered what happened to his eyes, but they're right there. Okay, so that part's fine. And then this part should be good also. Oh, here. I'll make another plane to verify this. I'm going to do this. Then I'm going to this. I can intersect that. Then you can see if I move that. Oh, and you can see also the gap right there around his nose. So that's cool. And then there's no gap with the eyes. So I will also have to adjust the eyes, but that's fine. So I'm going to take one thing I really wish this software that I love could do is if anyone from Shaper ever watches this, what I would really, really love is that like when you select the axis, whatever, to just the face or the plane or whatever to turn the sectioning on, I would super love it if when the section view is on, which is this, which is a super helpful tool. If when I did this, it adjusted like it would adjust where the sectioning is. That would be fantastic because otherwise what you got to do is you got to turn it off, then you turn it on a different height or whatever. And it's like, I get it, but I would love it if it did that. But so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to, this head and mohawk, I'm going to isolate this. And then so what I'm going to do here, go boom, 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 boom. A lot of I'm doing here is thinking as I'm, so minus 0.1. Yep. What? Oh, really? Okay. There's lots of places where I don't know why the you know, okay, why the resulting body would be not valid, but what do you mean? So crap. Okay. Let me undo this. The whole. This is not the one ear is a little angled weirdly, apparently. Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, so there's a bit of a gap there. So what I'm going to do, because this doesn't work, I'm going to. Actually, how am I going to do that? So I can't. So that's like, oh, okay. So there's like, I've got it very slightly different. So this is one I made like a while ago, and I think I would have not made this mistake before, or I wouldn't have made. If I did it now, I wouldn't be making a mistake. But gotta live with it. Hmm. Hmm. So, oh, I wonder if I do this. Here's a possible solution. 0.1. Then I select this, and I select this, and I do a subtract. This probably will give me the same geometric issue. Okay, and then if I do this, which should now be slightly taller. Yeah, okay. So I want to say negative 0.1. Okay, so I do this and that, and then, okay, great. And then I need a little gap here, which is also kind of weird. What I did there is because I couldn't manually adjust the size, I took this piece, made it slightly bigger, and then subtracted it. I did a Boolean operator there, and that seemed to work. So that's handy. Turn the ear back on. There should be a tiny little gap here, which I don't actually see. Oh, yeah, there it is. And that looks like a big gap, but I don't. Oh, you know what? It is a big gap. It's really hard to get a sense of how big it should be. Oh, it should be 0.05. That's fine. I'm sure there are better ways for me to be doing this, more efficient ways, but I think that'll be fine. That seems big, but you know what? Wait, that's interesting. What's going on there? Tracks. Oh, weird. Is that not? Should be a gap on this side, but not a gap on the bottom. This is all nitpicky stuff. This is honestly taking me. It always takes me longer than I think it's going to. Huh. Okay. No, I want to. You there? Oh. Oh, I had that whole thing wrong. That's interesting. What? Oh, weird. Okay. I must have not all what I meant to do. I think I didn't hit negative. I'll watch this footage later and be like, yep, I did not hit the negative. Negative 0.1. Negative 0.05. 0.09. 8. Okay, I'm gonna do the same thing I just did on that one, on the other part of the right ear. So I try to make this symmetrical, and it doesn't really. Right, like that shouldn't be, because that's touching it. That's interesting. So this will probably mean that when I print these again, it'll feel too big, or the gap will seem big, but I'd rather have a larger gap than not enough of gap. Especially because this will be like glued in place and magnets and stuff, so not a big deal. Okay. What is nice? Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So that's a gap there. And as you can see from, let's do here, we're going to add a plane. So this is the part that I wish that, oh wait, hold on. Get rid of the plane because I want to add a plane, and then here, I think. Boom. So you can see, well, that one has some gaps. Like, I don't know why interesting. It was well over a year ago that I made this, so I'm trying to remember why I have a little hole there. Oh, you know what it probably was? This bit here, I mean. This bit, I was thinking I would put like, this was like a bracket that I imagined possibly for the LED. I'm going to probably get rid of that, but my main thing right now is getting rid of, or not getting rid of, adding space. So these are probably not exactly the same. Okay. Oh, no, that's just a color. Is that right? What's going on here? What the hell? Wow, I really screwed up the geometry on this thing. Okay, so this is, these eyes aren't, I would do the eyes very differently if I was doing them again today, because I got a lot more knowledgeable about the application. Oh, that's probably because it's, there. And then, and I guess I would have probably adjusted the color of these things. What do you mean? This again. Okay. Okay. So, because see, there's a little gap here because this should be. What is this? Okay, hold on. I gotta fix that anyway. There. Deselect that one. Okay. At least that's better. That's not fixed, but that's better. Oh man. Looking at some older work here. This was one of the ones I made, like I said, like a year, maybe 2 years ago, and I got a lot better at figuring out the geometry. So I don't really care that there's a little bit of a gap there, like in actual printed size. You hardly really be able to notice it, but then I think what I do is I say this, and I should maybe, if I do one of these. That's too much. Okay, so I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to do matches the other side now. Okay. So I'm going to repair the geometry here. Again, this is very clumsy of me. But for the purposes of this, this will be fine. Oh, I must have undid that. What the hell am I doing there? Oh, I probably don't even need to do that. There. Okay, so I want to end isolation. I want to do. I'm going to turn these on. Let's see. So there's no gap there. There's a tiny gap there, but what is going on with those? So weird. Let's see, what is that? Oh, okay. So, interesting. Okay, so I only have to partially do that. That's good to know, I guess. Oops. It's just at the deselect button. I just say I'm a professional, not at this. So these two faces had already been adjusted. This one, let's see if this works. There. So I bet if we do isolation off. And then I do this. There you go. See, now that makes more sense. I'm just so happy with the look of this, even though there's little clunky bits like this. What's going on here? There you go. So, and then on this piece, which again I regret apparently choosing this as a color that is basically the same as the selection color. Okay, there we go. And then I think, okay, so let me just turn that off. Okay, so you should be able to just see the gap. Should be great. And again, does not translate to printed size. And let me just see what these are. Oh, I did the other way. Okay, there's a lip, but I couldn't remember how I did the lip. Okay. So we're gonna take you and you. These two of them. All right. Oh, okay. So let me look at isolation. In the isolation mode, I will these three, and I will target them. Okay, great. Okay. So I don't need to really worry about that too much. That's just sort of a plug to stop them from going too far forward, which I probably didn't need, but that was why I would have added that. Okay. I'm gonna take you, and I'm gonna get rid of that. That was pretty easy. So if I get to the point of actually putting LED here, because I'm gonna print, my goal is to print the two eyes in a transparent blue resin, and ideally I'd have a light there, but I could just like glue the light to the back. So I think that's good. So I think, despite my confusion about the work that I did, that looks so cool. Actually, the only part that I'm not happy with, and I'll have to dedicate a bunch of videos to figuring out how to do this better, is hands, because I haven't tried in a while, but like, what is that? Oh, that's circle. Doing this specific kind of geometry that hands are in Shaper, where it's not really designed for that. It's kind of where it falls apart. From a distance, and actually printed, it looks fine. But anyway, so that's the head, and then so I could now export that. I don't know what that piece of interface is. That sort of dotted line. Oh, I think I made an axis by accident there. That's why. Okay. But yeah, so I can print that at the scale of the film one I showed early in the video. So that's pretty cool. So I'm going to take, how am I going to do this? I'm going to take the head, and I am going to, for the purposes of, okay, what am I going to do here? So I'm going to say, I'm going to turn off hips, gun, right arm. Don't know why that menu went away. I'm turning off the gun, left fin, torso, in the sketches. Oh, in the right hand. Yeah, a lot of pieces in the right hand. Right hand, a logo, and I am now, I think the only thing I have is the head. So one of the export options that this has is you can export in individual files. Like if I exported this, just the default is to an STL is one object in the entire file. Like everything gets compressed into one thing. But what I want to do is I want to have these come out separate, and then we can do is I'll show you here. So if I do this 3D print STL, I have like save each first level item separately, which is really handy because then that means like any item on the root. So if I wanted to have a folder with a bunch of different pieces, I didn't want to combine in Shaper, but I wanted to still act as one item for printing purposes. That's really handy. Where that, so I could say like the left hand and the right hand would be one file. You know, left hand would be one file, right hand, etc., etc. But I don't actually. I want the head to be broken up into several pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select them, and I'm going to drag them briefly out of the folder. So now they're the only visible thing. There's nothing in the head, it'll ignore that. And so I'm going to export these two. I'm going to save each first item separately, but I'm going to not include hidden items, so the folder and stuff won't be there. And so the one and the rest of the model that is turned off will be there. And then I'm going to save this to files. iCloud Drive, 3D models. Wheeljack, let them do. Keyboard. I don't know why I'm saying that much. Wheeljack head ready for printing. Okay, and then I'm gonna be good. So I'm gonna save that. And then to make my organizational stuff work better again, let's stick it back in the head. So then they're there. So then I will just turn everything back on, and it will look all pretty as if nothing had ever been adjusted. So, and then I'll eventually put I'll put, oh no, I don't need the planes. I'm just gonna get rid of those planes because I like to put all of my sketches in one folder, but I don't care about the planes because those are the planes I created just for the purposes of sectioning it. Oh, and then I have the pedestal. Why do I have the pedestal? Oh yeah, because I was gonna make him just as a bust, and then I decided I was just gonna make the entire body. Yeah, so this took me a lot longer to do than I thought it was going to. So I'm gonna stop it here, and then the next one will show some of the printing progress and like an assembly of the head. Not the eyes though, and that won't happen until I have to get more resin. So subscribe and tell everyone about it and all that stuff. Like the video, etc., etc., because we are very far away from my goal of 100,000 subscribers to get me to mail one of the subscribers to the channel the full-size Matrix Leadership whenever I finish that, because it has to be whenever by the time I finish it. Currently, the subscriber count sits at 9, so pretty close. Yeah, so the next video in this sequence will be print of the head, like I said, and then I'll do some prototyping of the Matrix. So I'm going to continue to jump back and forth. I'm sorry for the shakiness. I'm filming this bit on the iPad on my lap, so shaking around. But yeah, see you on the next one.